And Ammon's roaring provides yet another resemblance between him and Yahweh. He says this on page 150. And the storm god Adad Rahman as well. Amos 1:2 reads, Vayomer Adonai mitzayon yishe'ag ume Yerushalayim yiten kolo. It says the Lord roars from Zion and thunders from Jerusalem. This word for roaring, this Hebrew word for roaring, again, Kohler and Baumgartner, they say brulin of the Löwe. This is the roar of the lion. They also say that she'aga is the shkrayen, des Betenden is a cry in prayer. They say this on page 934. Mother lexicon that I really like to use is Gesenius, Hebrew Chaldee lexicon. She'ag is to roar, used of a lion. You'll also used of thunder in the scriptures, Job 37:4. And then he says, compare Amos 1 and 2. And then she'aga is the roaring of a lion. This is the feminine of she'ag, is the roaring of a lion. Also the cry of a wretched person wrung out from grief. He says this on page 797. While the BDB says she'ag can also be figuratively used of invaders and foes who roar in triumph, in a temporary triumph. And it is also the roaring of thunder. And I thought that was interesting because in the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament by Horus, volume 2 again, let's see here, page 890, he says in Psalm 38:8, David says, I have roared by reason of the disquietness of my heart. Here he's using the verb she'ag to describe his apparent deep groanings, or roaring, a deep groaning because of his sin. She'aga, the idea of roaring, this feminine noun is used to refer to roaring literally or figuratively. Of special interest is Psalm 22, which, along with Isaiah 53, now remember, this is the suffering servant chapter in Isaiah, so well foretells the Messiah's suffering. And here in Psalm 22:1, the Messiah asks the Father why he is so far from helping me, from the words of my roaring. Interesting. The Messiah, it must be answered, is roaring or groaning, as David did in Psalm 38:8, because it is his estrangement from the Father, or his abandonment to judgment upon the cross, that he bore the sins of so many. Why have you forsaken me? It's a deep, distressful roar, a cry. Well, the thunder gods, of course, the sky gods, would have this principle associated with them, and they do, whether it is the ancient Hebraic, Yahweh, or the Egyptian, or the Greek themselves. Further, when the Pharaoh roareth like Setesh, it is also said that the sky roared at him in its turn. In the 19th dynasty, Ammon-Re, it was said, the mountains are moved beneath him at the time of his raging. The earth totters when he becomes frenzied. Now, the image here is made in likening Ammon to the bull, and so we naturally think of the archaic statue of the bull Min. This god is Ammon's other self, and here the mountains are shown to be trodden by the bull, another very significant factor in the ancient sky gods. In any case, the idea is ancient in connecting with the gods and the thunderstorms and the shooting stars. Now, when the guardians of the limbs of heaven open the gates of heaven for him, that is the ascending Pharaoh, roareth like Setesh, and the earth trembled at him. This is pyramid text 1149 to 1151. Or else the bones of the earth gods tremble. Pyramid text 393. This same thing happened when Yahweh manifested himself to his prophets Moses and Elijah. In the first case, the whole mount quaked greatly when Moses was there, you remember. The Lord descended upon it in fire, in what was clearly a terrible thunderstorm, Exodus 19:18. In the second case with Elijah, a great and strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. And after the wind, an earthquake, and after the earthquake, a fire. This is 1 Kings 19:11-12. Psalm 18:7 describes the same phenomena at the appearance of the Lord to his suppliant. In the following cases, these occurrences are associated with meteorites and shooting stars. More remarkable series of tie-ins are talked by Wainwright on page 151, where he's discussing the opener of the gates of heaven. Anciently, the high priest at Thebes was known as this, or in heaven, and the idea of being the opener of the gates, of course, is to see what is in heaven, which was splendor. Shepsis is the Egyptian word that they use. Shepsis, the splendor. The high priest title cannot merely refer to the daily opening of the shrine. That had to take place in every temple in Egypt, and so it could not be distinctive of Thebes, is how he's arguing. He says, the mission of the high priest of Ammon was to gaze upon the splendor of his Lord, which was shut away from others and hidden in the depths of heaven. See, this is like an ascension, isn't it? It's a direct revelation through the heavens. There's no question, exactly as Joseph Smith's explanation of this min figure. No doubt, after having met his God face to face in this manner, the high priest was in a position to interpret his glories and will to mankind. You see, the will of the Father as revealed through the heavens. Well, when Ezekiel was to see the glory of the Lord, the heavens were opened unto him, Ezekiel 1:1. Hereafter ye shall see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending, was the promise given to Nathanael. This is John 1:51. Again, a door was opened in heaven to St. John when he was shown a vision of the throne out of which proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices. This is Revelation 4, verse 1 and verse 5. According to one account, the nativity was heralded by an appearance of the glory of the Lord and of a multitude of the heavenly host who went away into heaven. See, this is Luke 2, 9, and 13, and 15. The other describes the miraculous appearance as that of the star in the east. Again, the association of the cosmology. Matthew 2, 2, and 9. A very early revelation of Yahweh, accorded in many details with the Egyptian evidence. It took place at the Bethel stone. The word Beit El is the house of God in Hebrew, and this is accepted by many. And this is potentially the origin of the Greek bachelos. But the word bachelos did not merely mean a sacred stone in general, but it also applies to sacred meteorites. So it's likely, therefore, that Jacob's stone was a meteorite, or its substitute, an omphalos, especially as it had the same effects that these figures also have. It provided a ladder into heaven, and it was done as was done with the meteorite city of Letopolis in Egypt. And as Seth the storm god did, this is not unrelated to Ammon. Jacob's Bethel opened heaven for him, and so that he saw, of course, the angels of God passing on their way. He even saw God himself, because the ladder reached right up to the presence of Yahweh, who spoke to him face to face. And it might well be said of him, as of the high priest of Thebes, that he saw the splendor within heaven. Sure. Finally, Jacob said of his stone, and this is the gate of heaven. In so doing, he used the same words about his probable meteorite and the opening it accomplished as the Egyptians did about the high priest of their very evident meteorite at Thebes. So again, the cross-cultural contexts. In his article, The Emblem of Men, in the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, Volume 17, 1931, Wainwright sums up on page 195. It's a very excellent article on the various iconographic, artistic descriptions, forms, the double arrows,